It's your boy Big Vern coming to you again live from the App Stupid Studios. App like you got some sense. Smash the like and subscribe button. We like it when you do that here. Also, at the bottom of the screen, you will see all of the socials where we can be reached at. Follow us on the socials. We talk back. And if you want to fund the madness directly, you can send us a cash app. $Vern Dollars. DOLLAZ. A busy sports weekend. A lot was flying around. And I had half of a story without watching the other shoe drop. And so I want to talk about not only Alabama's surprise hire, also the job opening in Washington. And then we want to round the bases and talk about a weird story about Ray Rollins. I don't know if any of you all have heard about Mr. Rollins. Mr. Rollins was a former NBA player for the Washington Wizards, and he was caught shoplifting from Target, which it's just bizarre. But we want to start with the Alabama story. And Alabama hired Mr. Kalen Debore. And is this the right fit for Alabama? Remember, we covered on the program, Alabama has the second best recruiting class in the nation. And is Debore a selling point for a five-star kid to stay at Alabama? I don't know. But we'll answer all of those questions after a quick 20-second break from another unofficial sponsor of the show. Wow, got to talk to somebody who's running these commercials. Subway, eat fresh, refresh. Try the new signature Subway sub series. Visit the good folks down at your local Subway. Download the app or order online. Subway, eat fresh, refresh. So back to this story about Saban's replacement, Mr. Kalen Debore. Now, this was covered in Fox Sports by Mr. Bruce Feldman. And I was just thinking to myself, did this come out of nowhere to kind of pull in Mr. Kalen Debore? Because, and I may be pronouncing it wrong, so don't hold that against me. Because in the Tuscaloosa Times, they floated 5 names. He was not on that list. And so when he got hired, I was taken back like, what? Really? And so Debore just capped off his second season in Seattle with a trip to the college national championships, which ended in Michigan, crushing them 34-13. Now, Washington went 14-1 this season and 11-2 last season under Debore. So overall, their record was like 25-3. Now, prior to joining Washington, Debore, he was head coach at Fresno State. And from 2020 to 2021, they compiled a record of 12-6. Debore, he's going to have big shoes to fill in Tuscaloosa. Yeah, no joke. Again, this is going to be Bruce Feldman covering this out of Fox Sports, talking about Nick Saban and how Nick Saban is kind of regarded as one of the greatest college football coaches of our era. But another thing I was trying to get at when I was reading the article was Debore's pedigree. Like, there's not a large enough sample size to find out how good he's going to be under the SEC lights. And I mean that with all respect. I'm not trying to go ahead and belittle his accomplishments. I'm not trying to upset the apple cart. I'm just asking a legitimate question. How good is he? Dober led his alma mater, Sioux Falls, to a 67-3 record, and that was from 2005 to 2009. And he won 3 NAIA championships at a small Baptist affiliate school in South Dakota's largest city. He later had immediate success at Fresno State, going 12-6 in 2 seasons from 2020 to 2021, before taking that Washington team that had finished 4-8 in the same year. I'm not saying this guy can't coach. I'm not saying that at all. He's got the pedigree. He started off small. He went back home to his alma mater, brought them to prominence, took the next job, Fresno State, turned them around, 12-6. Hey, anytime you win 12 games, you're saying something. But I wonder, what was it that Alabama saw from Dober to say he's better than Dabo Swinney, a guy who is in the South, in the culture of the South. He knows the SEC. He's won national championships. He's a guy who can fire kids up. And if I've got the number 2 recruiting class and my legendary coach steps down, and that guy from Clemson wants to come and play and coach, well, he wants to come and coach down in Tuscaloosa, have at it. At least that's how I think. We'll get into more of these questions about Alabama and Kalen Dober after we come back from a quick 20-second break from another unofficial sponsor. Yes, Roast the Host, ladies and gentlemen. Roast the Host is coming up. It's the annual We Get Together and Humiliate Vernon show. So tune in. It's going to be live on Facebook. It's going to be our first inaugural show where we go live and people take shots at me. They talk about everything from my looks all the way down to my weight, talk about my mom, talk about my kids. But I have to go ahead and draw the line somewhere. So there will be no wife jokes. There will be no racism. There will be no dad jokes. There will be no kid jokes. Everything else is on the table. My wife and kids is not up for discussion. My dad and my mom, not up for discussion. Me, you can take shots at me all day. Again, you can't be racist. You got 2 minutes to deliver your burn. Winner, we'll probably get you a gift card somewhere. Yep, Roast the Host. Should be fun. That's on a Friday. So if you're listening to me and you want to put me down and put me in my place and issue your smack, yeah, Roast the Host is going to be live for you. Okay, back in this. Now, Dober coached Heisman Trophy runner-up Michael Penix Jr. last season, and he brings that offensive track record to replace Saban and the former NFL defensive coordinator. He was at Fresno State's offensive coordinator in 2017-2018 and held the same job at Indiana for a year before replacing Jeff Tedford. Now, keep that in mind. And it didn't make sense when they put in Indiana. I started to connect the dots. COVID made it hard on these kids. So everybody up until that point, or granted another year and a half of college athletics, number one. Number two, when Penix was in Indiana, so was Dober. And something about that just had me. That's why I couldn't report on this story like I wanted to, because there's an Indiana component. Now, in that time frame, Indiana was not a dominant football powerhouse. We did not win the Big Ten by any stretch of the imagination. All of these guys come from Tom Allen. Great guys, great recruiters. I have nothing bad to say about these guys. But you're talking to somebody in the Midwest. You're talking to somebody in the Big Ten. And when they said Indiana, my antenna went up. because there's a second shoe that's going to fall here. So I see the pedigree. I look at his resume. There's dues paid. There's teeth cut. But I just don't think that's enough for the SEC. And I could be wrong. But I said he's got the second recruiting class in the country. The only other problem is Georgia has the number one recruiting class coming next year. And they play early. They don't play late in a championship game. They play early. Here's the second shoe. Kane Womack is leaving South Alabama to take over the Alabama defensive coordinator role. And a lot of you don't know who he is. A lot of you all don't know who Kane Womack is. But he was coaching at South Alabama and he left. Now, again, put on those hats because here we go. Remember, keep that Indiana ticket out. Keep that Indiana ticket out. Kane Womack, he climbed to the coaching ranks as a defensive assistant at various schools. Now, this was actually covered in Football Scoop by John Bryce. It's a great outlet. Go subscribe and follow them. But he became one of college football's top young head football candidates from his defensive work at Indiana under Tom Allen. So we can quickly see how things flush themselves out. Cignetti and his group that left James Madison, and then they went to Indiana to take over the job this year for Tom Allen. They're all from Alabama. Those guys all were at Alabama at the same time. Even his co-offensive coordinator was Steve Sarkisian's right-hand guy. Indiana has an Alabama coaching staff, basically, under the cloak and guise of coming out of James Madison. Alabama, they can pretend like they have a Washington staff. They don't. They've got an Indiana staff. And Debore, credit to him, you can't hate the player. He struck while the iron was hot. Instead of playing it safe out in Washington where you could have been coached for life, right now you got a loaded team and you're in a hot conference. The SEC is smoking hot. But you went back for Womack, and that was the card. Like I said, it didn't make sense to me as I'm sitting here watching it. Because again, in the Tuscaloosa Times, the names that were floated, he was not one of them. And then you're looking for a defensive coordinator or something juicy. You get a young guy who's got a lot of promise in Womack, but then you understand you guys all worked for Tom Allen in Indiana. And Indiana wasn't very good then. And that's what I keep saying. There's not a large enough sample size to say if these guys are going to be good or these guys aren't. But there's a lot of different red flags that just go up when we go over this. Womack has spent the past 3 seasons as head coach of the Jaguars, leading the team to a 22-16 mark, is set to return an assistant post as a defensive coordinator in the SEC. I'm not talking trash, but 22-16 in 3 years in a smaller conference, is that good enough for Alabama? I know you need players. I know you got to have playmakers, but I just don't think that's enough. I just don't think it's enough. Sources tell Football Scoop that Womack is Kalen Debore's top target to take over the Alabama defense under new Crimson Tide coach. And they worked at Indiana closely together. So we see here, you want to get people that you can trust in any job. That's going to happen. You want to go after the guys who you're confident that can do the job. I'm not saying Womack is incompetent and can't do the job. But what I'm sitting here saying is this is an Indiana coaching staff. And when they were all at Indiana, they did not produce one Big Ten title. And now you got this same coaching staff, and they are at Alabama. They've got the #2 recruiting class and one of the hardest schedules in the country. Things are in a very mixed up state. I don't know what that looks like. I just don't know. And I'm not saying that these guys aren't good. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I don't know if it's Tuscaloosa worthy. But I could be wrong. They could come out and blow the doors off people. You just don't know what you're going to get. But yeah, that's where we go. I don't know if he's the coach for them. I wish the Crimson Tide well. I hope they get a lot done this year. And we'll just see where the chips fall. As always, share, like, and subscribe. This is Big Vern, and I'm out.